Welcome in another section. In this section we're going to talk about the layers, and you probably heard tons of the things about the layers because everyone who do the Photoshop talk about the layers. So what's the big deals about the layers? Why everyone talk about the layers, and why is it so important? Because it seems like the layers are the most important part of Photoshop. I have to say, I don't know if it's the most important part of Photoshop, but without the layers, we cannot work in Photoshop. That's why everyone is talking about the layers, and that's why the layers are so important, because without the layers, our work doesn't exist. So that's why before you start working with Photoshop, if you want to work in the right way, you need to understand what are the layers, how to work with layers, how to skip between layers, and all the great stuff that allows you to create amazing projects in the future. So let's have a look here on the right side. Remember when we were talking about our workspace, I said on the right side we have number of panels, and you probably have, if you didn't change anything, you can see this panel over here on the bottom. Right now it's quite open, but in this area you can see the panel called layers. If you cannot see this layer panel over here, just go to Window and find Layers, as you can see, and you're going to open the layers, or you can just simply open this window over here and choose Reset Essentials, and everything will be straight from the beginning as it was. And that's super important panel for your work. Why? Because actually the work you're going to create is available over here. All the steps you're going to do with the layers, the more layers you're going to put on, the way how you're going to create something over here, all of this will be available in this panel. So we're going to build up this panel. That's why the layers are so important. And in this layer panel, we already have one layer. That one layer is our image that we opened in Photoshop. So that's our starting point. And if you don't have any layers, it means you don't have any project in Photoshop. So if we would close this, there is no layer, it means there is no project. So starting from the beginning, we have one layer, and what I was talking about, the fact that it's going to be more layers, because maybe you don't know actually how does it work. You probably know that exists something like duplicating the layers. So I'm going to duplicate this background. I'm going to hit right on this, or press Ctrl or Command and J on the keyboard to duplicate. So you can click right, there is option duplicate layer, or you can press Ctrl or Command J to duplicate this. And right now we have two layers available, and you cannot see the difference right now. If you unclick this eye over here, if you turn off the visibility, nothing is changing, because actually it's exactly the same image, because we just duplicated image. You can see the difference when I'm going to choose the move tool, which is on the top here, very basic tool. And as you can see, when I'm going to move this, you can see this is the layer. Right now it's not the same because I moved this layer, so it's in a bit different place. Also, I can duplicate this layer once again, and I'm going to create third layer, and I can move this over here. So right now I have 3 layers in my project. I'm going to remove this and duplicate this layer once again. How does it influence our work? Let's say the background layer, I'm going to rename this and call this original as our original layer, and that will be our copy. If you change your copy, because you have such an option, and I'm going to use these options right now, but don't copy anything, because these adjustments that I'm going to use now are not important for the future. And I'm going to open brightness and contrast, very basic adjustment, and I'm going to make this image a bit darken, and I'm going to make a bit bigger contrast. So okay, right now this image is a bit darkened. So we want to have half of the image in this color, for example, and half of the image with our original color. Let's have a look what is happening when I'm going to choose eraser tool, which is over here. And I'm going to make the size of the brush of this tool I choose right now a bit bigger. I'm going to choose the big size. I'm going to clean this over here. And I'm going to remove this over here. So what is happening here right now? Let's have a look. I have half of the image with the dark color because I changed this over here, and under this is our original layer. So that's how the layers works like, and that's which possibilities it's going to give you. That's not everything, because except duplicating the layer, we can create totally new layers, for example, empty layers. So I'm going to create empty layer. You can hit over here on this small icon on the bottom, or press Ctrl or Command Shift and N to create new layer. I'm going to call this layer empty. So for example, right now I created this empty layer and you cannot see anything because this is just a transparent layer. But I can choose a brush tool over here. So I'm choosing a brush, and right now the color is black. We don't need anything more. And what I can do on this layer, I can paint with the color black. When I turn off visibility over here, you cannot see this, and right now you can see this once again. If we use eraser tool, we can remove this area and leave as much as we want. So I showed you the basic, but there is a little catch. Why is it really not great to work this way, and why we shouldn't use eraser tool and work destructively on these layers. And this problem will be resolved by layer masks. So I'm going to start from the beginning. I'm going to duplicate this original layer. I'm going to call this copy. And I'm going to start with the copy. Once again, I want to bring up some contrast. I'm just going to change the colors as before. And once again, I want half of the image to be darkened and half of the image to be brightened. So I want to just remove this like before by eraser tool. But the thing is, when we once remove this by eraser tool, like I'm doing this right now, and then I'm going to decide, well, I actually don't like this effect. I would like to bring up some of the dark colors over here. So what we can do, we cannot bring this up straight away. We can duplicate this layer once again and then erase the area we didn't like this, or just do a step back by hitting step backward as many times as we can. It will be just one time. We can choose on the keyboard Alt, Control or Command and Z to do a step back. But sometimes we can do too many steps, so it will be much more difficult to do a step back. How to prevent this? So okay, that is our layer. And you can see the little icon over here, and it says add layer masks. Let me hit this and have a look. On this layer we have another layer, and this is our mask. We apply it into this layer because it's visible over here, this picture, this mask. And as long as this mask has color white, it means this layer is visible for our eye. White mask, the image is visible. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to choose a brush as before and color black. Because if we apply opposite color to this white, it means we're going to create this image invisible. White color, visibility, black color, invisibility. So I'm choosing, remember to hit on this layer mask, and I'm going to paint on this right now. Can you see what is happening over here? We have this little black area right now. So I'm going to paint more Okay. Of course, you can wonder why this brush is so harsh. It just set up like this. We can change the hardness of the brush easily. So I'm going to make this soften. And here you are. That's really amazing, right? We remove half, but we wanted this area of the black. But, okay, you can say, but I can do this by eraser tool. But what huge opportunities this layer mask giving you. Have a look right now. I'm going to choose color once again, and now I'm going to change this color into the white. I'm going to paint once again on this layer mask with white color. Have a look what is happening. I just bringing up the real color of this layer, and I can work like this over and over wherever I really want. I can change from white to black and work on this layer mask, as you can see. So that's how you work non-destructively with your layers, by creating layer masks. Let me create an empty layer right now, and I'm going to paint on this empty layer with color black somewhere here. Okay, I created black. So right now I want to have just clear view on the middle over here. Instead of using eraser tool, once again I'm going to create layer mask, because we can create this on every layer. I'm going to choose black color, which is already here. Remember, this layer mask selected, and I'm going to paint over here. And that's it. That's really amazing thing. If you want to bring this up, choose the color white, and you bring in up the black color. So that's the introduction to working with layers. That's how it looks like. And in the next lesson, we're going to explore the subject even more, but this time working with some serious projects, working with some serious adjustments and explaining the adjustments. And during this adventure, you're going to see how we work with layers and how does it influence your work.